Hello, Guest Central hosts. I just wanted to take a second and do a little screencast for you to talk through the iPad and the new app that I mentioned about that what we'll be using for follow-up with visitors. We have been using down in the bottom left-hand corner down here the online version of the Next Step card. And so we're not going to be using that anymore. Instead, we are going to be using an app called Base, which you'll see there on the top right hand side. You should be getting an email welcoming you and allowing you to go in and activate your email address and set up a password. That will be important, and I'll show you why as we get into it. When we open up Base, it will bring you to this screen. This screen is your login. If it's not, then you're logged in as someone else. So you want to make sure that we log out and get in on your account. So put in your email address, whatever password you set, and then you can sign in. And you can skip through all this. This is just basically telling us what Base can do. It is a sales app, so you'll see some things like there at the top, deals won and deals lost and sales pipeline and I looked around for, it's amazing, there's not a lot of apps that do exactly what we want to do that are free, and this was one that is, and so I'm excited to kind of use it for what we need it for, but it does mean that we have to eliminate some of the features that it has because they're not all usable. So the dashboard basically shows us what's happening. So we're all on one big team, a sales team, if you will. And we can see down here who's joined Base, who's on that team with us. Here, this means lead, this little target, which is what we'll be using. You can see Ken Rivers used it. He added Chrissy Bader as a new person. I added a new contact, which is what this is. But we're not going to be doing contacts. We're going to be doing leads. This has all been as we've kind of been testing it out and playing with it. So here at the top yesterday, I logged in and Ken's profile was still open, so I moved Chrissy Bader from lead to first contact made, and I'll talk about that in a second. The other thing here is I've added a PDF file, and so that's for this weekend. So actually from the app itself, we can click on the PDF, and it will bring up the preview. And this is what we're going to be using to help people find what rooms their kids are in. So you can see we've got each room listed. This is a map, a layout of the church. It shows who goes where. And then as you scroll down, we actually have age groups and names and what room they go in. So if anybody comes up and says, hey, this is my kid's name, this is how old they are, what room do they go in? If they have questions or they say, hey, they're 3 years old now, but in 3 weeks they're going to be 4, what room do they go in? That will all be listed on that PDF. So that's what we want to do there. On the left-hand side, you'll see a menu, and that menu has several different options. At the very bottom is the plus sign. When you click on the plus sign, that basically brings up that menu again in a button kind of easy layout. What we will be using is we'll be using the first button, which is lead, and the last button, which is email. The rest of the functions in the middle we're not going to be using right now, so we don't need to get into that. The whole idea of using this app was as new people come into the church, part of our first visit experience is that we get the information to stay connected with them. We don't need their life history. We don't need to know what their major was in college. We don't need to know their shoe size. All we need is a name, an email address, and a phone number. And then that will allow us to just stay in touch with them, and as they look to take their next steps, it will allow us to help them do that. One of the things that we felt was going to be a special part of the Guest Central host experience would be creating a way that you could contact the people that you touched base with, that you met on a Sunday morning immediately. And this is what I mean by that. How great would it be for a family to come in, for them to be greeted by a Guest Central host, for them to get their gift, for their kids to get their VIP badges and their gift and get into their room, to have a great experience, mom and dad have a great experience, and they go home, and by the time they get home, they've already received an email from the Guest Central host that greeted them that morning, that helped them get checked in, that helped them know where everything was in the church, that helped them find a place to sit, that genuinely made them feel welcome. And by the time they get home, they receive an email that says something like, Hi, Steve and Nancy. This is Mike from Avalon Church. So glad to have you with us today. Hope Nick and Karen, your kids, had a great time in Kids Church. If you have any questions about how you can get more connected at Avalon, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks, Mike Labarge. And that comes from my email address. Now, as a staff member, I can tell you, people expect church staff, to follow up. That's part of our job. That's what we get paid to do. But as a volunteer, as someone that just willingly serves and gives of your time, it just sets us apart that someone at that level would be willing to do this kind of immediate follow up, this personal connection follow up. I think it's just going to be a huge win. I think it's going to make people feel so welcome and so connected at the church. And that's why we want to do it. So, this is what we need. You'll see there's a lot of information in this lead contact box. We're not going to use all of it. There's just going to be a couple areas that we use. One, we need to get first and last name. So, I'm going to do a couple. We'll do Steve and Nancy Smith. And so we put their name in. I don't need to know company, title, or industry. One of the cool things is it shows me who owns this lead. So because it's on my profile, I'm putting this in. But if I was in someone else's profile, say, I could go in and I could say, well, this is actually Ken's doing it on my profile, so I'm going to make Ken the owner. He's not, so I'm going to switch that back to me. But then as I go in and look at our database, which is all in one place, I can go in and see exactly who met with who. So, this works for everything. This isn't just first visit stuff. This is if someone comes up and says, hey, I have a prayer request, or hey, I want to get in a small group. This is the process we use. First visit is just another part of that process. So, first name, last name. The owner should be set to you if you're logged in on your profile. The lead status will always be new. And so we want to just leave that. If they're a visitor, we will follow up with them through that, but that will stay. Contact information, we'll do email. I'll just do s@s.com just to fill it in, and a phone number. So we got their name, their email, and their phone number. If they wanted to give us their address or update it, they're welcome to do that. Don't need to do any of these other things. But at the very bottom, there's tags. And this is where we will be using kind of what the issue is that they're looking at. So say, for instance, their first visit. So we'll put first visit. But then they're also interested in small groups. So I'm going to add small groups. And then, maybe they have, prayer request. And so then in that, we could put the description there, prayer request, pray for family. So that's where you would put in any content. Obviously, if it's a small group, there's don't need to put in information. But that description area there is where we would put in prayer requests, or if there was anything specific that they needed, that would be the box to fill it in. And then we'll click done, and that will show that I've added Steve and Nancy Smith there at the top. And then before your serving time is done, before you go home, what we'll do is we'll click into communication. We'll go into, actually I'll go back into leads. I'll go to Steve and Nancy Smith. I got his email there. I'll click on that, and then it will bring up an email thing. Say, thanks for visiting. And then just type in my message and click send, and it will send to them. You can put your name and guest central host, Avalon Church, and we can look at what that looks like. But it really just needs to be 2 sentences. It could be, Steve and Nancy, thanks for checking out Avalon Church. Hope that you have a good trip back to North Carolina if they're visiting, or, hope that everything goes well with your job interview, or something specific to whatever your conversation was that morning. Something that says, if Nancy's pregnant, hey, hope the pregnancy goes well. If there's anything we can do, let us know. Just a way of touching base with those people to make them feel welcome and connected. So then that will come in, and then you're right back to the beginning. So we don't have to do any of the other things, just the communication and the leads. And then when I go in on a Monday, I will collect all this information, make sure they get put in our system, and that process gets followed through. Again, they'll get a follow-up email from us. They'll get follow-up communication if it's specific to an area or a thing, like small groups are serving, they'll get plugged into that as well. And then we can go in and see what's happening. So that's just kind of a quick overview. If I'm going to log out, I'm going to go down here to settings, which is this little cog wheel here. And then at the very bottom of that, I'm going to click log out and forget my data. It's going to bring me back to this screen, and then I can sign out, and that's it. So I know that was quick. I know you may have to rewind and go over that a little bit more, but I just wanted to give you kind of an update on what Base was and how it works. We'll still be meeting before service on Sundays and going over this some more and talking about how we can make this better, and any changes that we need to do, we'll do. And if there's anything that does not make sense to you, that's not simple, come talk to me. I would love to sit down and really work with you to make sure that this is working, that we're all on the same page. I feel like this is going to be a huge win for the church, and really a success in helping bring people wherever they are into a growing relationship with Jesus, because communication is key in that, and that's what this is all about. So I hope that you have a great day. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm excited about Sunday and all the changes that are coming up with our kids' rooms. Please be praying for service and that God just touches people's lives and continues to help us get better in helping people connect and grow deeper in their faith. So thank you again so much, so much for serving and being a part of this team. We could not do it without you, and I don't say that as a just kind of a saying that you're supposed to say, but I sincerely mean it. We could not do this level of connection and investment in people if we didn't have people willing to step up and be used by God, whether they feel like they're capable or not. Just to be willing to be used is huge. So thank you so much, and we will see you this Sunday.